question. Is it good? How do you how does this impact Ukraine? Is Ukraine going to be the same Ukraine in one generation when these kids grow up? Because 50% are no longer here. Some of them are in Russia, some are abroad, and the ones that stayed is like, is that enough to maintain the Ukraine culture?
Yeah, it's not enough. That's why we have to start from scratches. And it's one challenge, but the other issue is generational trauma
That's the other side.
because millions of children experience displacement. They lost their relatives, homes. They have they have educational losses because before the full-scale invasion it was COVID, and many kids had no education, online education, and then war happened. And we have now kids 11, 12 years old who cannot read or write. And can you, this thing, then trauma, huge trauma, losses, displacement, and no permanency, no safety, and all together. It could be generational trauma for these kids.
Yeah, and you mentioned the trauma, and I'm starting to think, right? When American soldiers came back from Vietnam, Iraq, Afghanistan, these are adults who went through a
Yeah,
lot of trauma.
yeah,
Now and we were somewhat knowledgeable how to treat trauma because of Vietnam War and treat Afghanistan and Iraq for our soldiers, American soldiers. But now I'm thinking, how do you treat trauma for children? Is there enough resources to treat trauma for children? Do we even
no,
have the knowledge?
no, no, because problem so huge, it's so different that we have to, for example, our organization developed the programming program for children who've been brainwashed. We never did it before. It's new phenomena when children who've been rescued, they don't understand what happened because they grew up in Russia, and they've been brainwashed, and we have to turn them into normal life, into normality. And it's like a new program. And then many kids have real psychological trauma. They had abuse, and it's horrible. You are frozen, Enrique. Ти комп'ютер зараз сяде чи що? Чи- Oh,
Oh, so we're back
yeah.
here.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. Okay.
you bring up a valid point because I think about all this trauma, right? And when you're a child, it's so easy to absorb information. And as you get older, it gets harder to get rid of that information because it helps you define who you are.
Mhm.
And then you have identity issues because you're like, I've been told I'm this, but now you're telling me something else. Like you feel completely lost as a child. And then
Yeah.
I'm assuming it stunts your growth. You don't you cannot go into adolescence and into an adult at the right time because everything is just so chaotic in your head as a kid.
Yeah. 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 It's a years if you will be able to overcome your trauma or never overcome, because if it's sexual abuse, if it's losses when Russian soldiers killed someone before your eyes, you will never overcome. You will stay with this trauma for whole your life. Yeah, but it's massively. It's not about some stories. It's about thousands of children. When and if, as you know, we have a lot of researches all over the globe
Mhm.
that, especially in early age, if you have no development, it's a tragedy for whole life of this kid. You will never overcome this. You will never reach this because it's about brain. Because for a child, especially in young age, in early age, critically important to have development. If not, you will never overcome this.
Yeah, and that affects the child, it affects the economy for Ukraine in the future, affects future families. These children are probably gonna be like, hopefully they have the strong morals and don't do alcohol, they don't do drugs. There's a huge amount of issues that can stem out of this that we're not even taking into account. And are the governments ready to face this, the repercussions in 20, 30 years?
Mhm. Yeah, it's true. It's true.
So I guess one question I have for you is, in kind of in closing, is what's one action that you would urge people to help rescue more kids?
Hmm. We so grateful for people who supporting Save Ukraine financially and providing us with information. Because Save Ukraine who have great success of searching and rescuing kids because our partners who providing financial support. It's very expensive to rescue one kid because we have investigator team, we have team who provide mediation to communicate with kids and convince them to come and tell them true about this war, about their relatives, researching their relatives, and then we provide financial support for all stages of rescue, and it's not easy. It's so dangerous there, and that's why we have partners, but we need more. And after rescue, we have a bunch of programs for rehabilitation and reintegration of these children, and both that families after reunification with the kids and for unaccompanied minors. We have special program for independent living, or they can stay in our facility, and we provide their rehabilitation and finding for orphans, finding families. That's why we are completely dependent on uh, on financials. That's why we always asking to join our rescue missions to provide us with financial support and to support different our programs for orphans, for children with disabilities, for children who experience sexual abuse, for all children who've been rescued from danger. Yeah.
On average, how much does it cost to rescue one of these children in order for people to help out?
You know, it depends of the circumstances, but sometimes it could be $2,000 for a child, sometimes $10,000 for a child. If it's so dangerous, or this child far away in Russia, or we have to prepare it, we have a huge preparation before. I cannot tell you a lot because it's confidential, but it's sometimes
Yeah.
it's really hard. That's why we our partners clearly understand how dangerous and important is this, and supporting us. And then maybe it's more expensive in some cases, maybe usually it's more expensive to provide rehabilitation reintegration, because it's a months before we will be able to rehabilitate and then reintegrate these kids. We have kids who live in our programs 2 or 3 years.